A recent Thorin tweet out there this past weekend striking, I would say, a pretty good debate of CSGO pros playing Valorant, a separate game from the esport they compete in and are pros in during another big CSGO event. That being this past weekend, if you guys do not know, playoffs going on for both Flashpoint as well as ESO Pro League. I was a bit confused about this one, not sure exactly who Thorin was referring to. I'm going to assume a Flashpoint team and also further assume that team being a few players that we've spoken about on this channel before. But first of all, his tweet on screen for all of you guys, you understand why this definitely caused an argument. As he said, Tier 2 pros splitting time between CS and Valorant when they're middle of a $1 million prize purse playoff bracket for CS that is wide open is the kind of decision making that helps me understand why they never made it to the top. Obviously, given this context, we have no idea what team or players he is referring to. I can tell you guys that several pro players out there across both ESO Pro League and Flashpoint have at least been playing Valorant, if not in their free time, during the past few days. We have seen this, and that's why I actually remarked, because it's kind of confusing to know who he is referring to when he says Tier 2 pros and $1 million prize purse playoffs. If you actually combine both North American and European ESL Pro League, that's actually a $1 million playoff bracket, so he could have been referring to them, albeit Flashpoint is also a $1 million tournament, and they certainly, if you're going to refer to any teams as Tier 2, that is likely who he is referring to. Even though we've seen Simple, we've seen Stewie, we've seen Tark, we've seen other Team Liquid and American members out there at least playing the game during their free time and over the course of the last, anywhere from, 1 to 7 days. But with that being said, he is likely referring to, this is an assumption, so take it with a grain of salt, guys, Team Orglis, who we already talked about here on this channel, who have, by the way, hinted at actually switching from Counter-Strike to going pro in Valorant. But the reason he actually said Tier 2 makes me think, yes, he probably is talking about these guys, that being FNS, Sabrosa, Wardell, and others. And ironically enough, just minutes after I tweeted out this, yesterday, Wardell also posted a Valorant highlights video. But most importantly, before you even have this argument, you need to know context. You need to know who he is talking about. Otherwise, we really can't judge. In the very basis of things, people are taking his words completely out of context, referring to any pro player out there who has ever played a separate game outside of Counter-Strike. That's not what he's talking about. As much as people out there love to gang up on Thorin for these posts out there, he is talking about a very particular instance, which we don't know the details about. Of course, when it comes time for any CSGO pro player or any esports pro out there in their free time, outside of practice, outside of their team scheduled occurrences, whatever it's actually happening, yes, they are free to play and have fun with playing whatever game they want to actually play. If it does influence their results, if they start sucking at their main game and actually not showing up, they can probably expect some backlash out there. When it comes to this particular instance, though, where we don't actually know who Thorin is talking about, it becomes incredibly tough to judge, because if he's referring to Orglis, I have my two takes on these guys potentially playing Valorant while also competing in CS during the Flashpoint playoff bracket. The one side of things, we don't know what Thorin is talking about. Were they playing a few hours before playing a CSGO match? Then maybe that's troublesome. If not, though, if it was outside their regular scheduled practice, if it was during their free time, and also it involves a team in Orglis who, by the way, they have now clarified themselves, they are Orglis. It is in their team name. They are not being paid to play Counter-Strike besides supposedly 1 month salary for being in Flashpoint League. So who am I to blame them if that's the case? If there was the team that he is accusing of playing Valorant, who am I to blame them, because they potentially could be switching from Counter-Strike to going pro in Valorant because it is not financially viable for them to compete in Counter-Strike. So yes, during many of hours currently right now in their schedule, they might be playing Counter-Strike and Valorant, even if it's mid-tournament for a $1 million Flashpoint League, which, by the way, is not paying them that much to be there. Yes, they might also be playing the game they are considering switching to being pro in. I certainly understand where Thorin is coming from, but context is so important here, and this overall tweet kind of lacked the specificity we needed to actually judge any players or any teams out there who are playing both Counter-Strike and also Valorant at the same time. You guys understand me? But I also totally get where he's coming from, right? It's a $1 million league. If they're playing a few hours ahead of their Counter-Strike matches, just chilling and playing Valorant, maybe not the best thing they could be doing with their time, but you got to understand their side of things as well. And again, we don't know the details of this story, but it does kind of drive the overall argument of how do you guys feel about, established pros in their esport playing other games in their free time. my overall take, as long as it does not influence your results, if just expect this. If you are a pro player out there, whether you play Rocket League, Counter-Strike, League of Legends, and you start playing a different game as well publicly, expect backlash from Reddit and the community if your team falls off or if your individual performance falls off. You can probably expect that. I don't know if that's the case here, guys, but certainly always a fun talking point when we bring up a guy like Thorin. What do you guys think about this? Until next time, breaking down a lot of CSGO, a lot of Valorant, a lot of other esports and gaming news here on the channel every single day. Until then, take care. I'll see you guys back here sometime soon.